Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the Entrepreneur Spotlight Show, and we have a special guest on the show today as part of our Author Spotlight series. And we're very delighted, of course, to have Miss Sue Zacharias on the show. And she has a book that's out right now. It's called The End of It. I was going to say The End of It, but it's End of It. And it's kind of an interesting book. I mean, if you love sort of things with an apocalyptic setting and, reads that are very interesting and intriguing. Sue is sort of the author for this type of thing. So we wanted to bring her on the show today. Sue, welcome to the Entrepreneur Spotlight Show today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And of course, for the people who haven't read it yet, we hope everybody's going to read it. Let's start just by giving a brief overview of End of It, and then we have a lot of questions about authorship and entrepreneurship and the book as well for you.
Yeah, so End of It is basically in a post-apocalyptic setting where people are struggled or challenged with the struggles of mental health. And mental health was a main focus in the writing of this book. And it continues to be something that I'm very passionate about today as well.
Yeah, let's talk about it because mental health is something that you're very interested in, you're passionate about it. How were you able to sort of take this interest in mental health and then decide, hey, I want to write a book called End of It and sort of incorporate my ideas into the book?
Yes. So after becoming a mom, that postpartum depression really kind of set in. And that was something that I've never been challenged with before. And add that with a full-time career and the stress that comes with that and trying to find that good balance. I was having these reoccurring nightmares. And that's kind of what started my writing journey was just having those few moments to write and like really get to be myself in there and kind of let some of those nightmares go that kept waking me up at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it makes sense. And of course, in the book, you have a couple characters. I think Amanda and Chase are a couple of the characters. When you were writing sort of their storylines or their perspective, did you bring your own personal perspective and the perspective of other people in your life into their storyline for the book?
Yes, they did. So, Chase's character is basically the hero of the book. Like he is the unsung hero, even though he may not appear as the hero. He's there for that emotional support. And a lot of times, even myself included, I don't realize how heavily I should be relying on my spouse in those moments when I need it the most and sharing like what I'm feeling and how I'm feeling. And he is kind of the unsung champion of the book end of it. If you haven't had a chance to read it, sorry, that's a spoiler.
Okay. Well, it's an intriguing book for sure. And I know from reading some of the bio and knowing a little bit about you that you would wake up sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning and write. And how is
Yep.
that sort of writing style working in the middle of the night? Did that kind of get your writing mind going when you'd wake up in the morning? Maybe you had a little quiet in the house. Maybe you could put your fingers on the dashboard. How did all that work out for you?
So usually I would wake up with like a night terror. And originally this started out as like a coworker giving me a dream journal. And that was the basis for all of this. And I started journaling my dreams and I was like, these are awful. Like, I don't love the ending. This is like the worst. I don't love this at all. How do I turn this into a positive? So then I started writing alternate ending to it and creating more of a scenario that was like happy so I could get rid of the night terror. And
Yeah.
it actually worked. So that was great.
I love it. And of course, we don't want to give away a lot of the book because when you read through it, there's a lot of surprises and a lot of twists and turns in the book. But when we think about some of the scenes that you wrote, were there any scenes that were particularly difficult or made you introspective in writing the book?
Oh, there are a few of those, but I don't really know if I want to share that quite yet.
Okay, okay, I understand. Because this is a very personal book and Sue, when you think about it and we think about writing, a lot of people who are wonderful authors like yourself, they really put their heart and soul into the writing. They have their emotions that they sort of connect through their fingers into the keyboards. And we talk to many authors where they say they're not quite ready yet to sort of disclose and emotionally connect everything about the book. And that makes a lot of sense because throughout time, then maybe you're able to start disclosing and connecting, and that makes all the sense in the world. Now, when we think about it, and you waking up in the early morning sometimes to write these books, did you have a place for the younger authors where you always went to write, an area that kind of became like your cocoon of writing, or did you write anywhere, everywhere, no matter where?
Anywhere, everywhere. I could be curled up on the couch. I could be sitting in my bed still, scribbling onto my notepad. It really didn't matter the place. I wrote a lot in my car on my lunch breaks, and it was wherever I could get those few free moments of silence, which being a new mom, that's not something you really get a whole lot of.
Yeah. Well, you talk about post-apocalyptic. That's hard to say three times for a host of a show. But you also talk about things like radiation and survival tactics without giving too much away. Did you have to research all of that while you were writing the book to bring it into a realistic, sort of science-backed part of the fantasy book?
I did do quite a bit of research, and I kind of wondered there for a while if I was going to end up on a watch list or something crazy because I'm like, these are just like weird things to be Googling at like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. So, yeah, there was probably a few hours spent at least Googling that in between scenes.
That's really funny. I'm sure they know you're an author, so I think you're okay when they
Oh gosh, I
search
hope
the
so.
database. Very interesting, of course. And when you write a book, a lot of younger authors are going to watch the show. They're going to say, "Hey, she did it. She put her fingers on the keyboard. She had this great idea. She took this sort of internal emotion and put it out into something that other people could enjoy." Let's talk about the experience sort of taking it from your mind to getting it into a book. The first time you held that book in your hands, after all the hard work, all the 3 a.m. and midnight,
Yes.
writing, what did that feel like the first time you got that book right in your hands?
Absolutely surreal. I got teary-eyed. I showed it to my husband. I held on to it. I hugged it tight. Like it was my baby. I had spent so many hours writing that and perfecting it and had those weird contemplations of like, is anyone going to read this? And to have it in my hands was like a completely out of this world experience. Like it just, some days it still doesn't feel quite real.
Yeah, I bet. And as you're reading it, you have mentioned that there are little hints throughout the book sprinkled into your writing that probably remind you of your own life or your situation. So as you're writing and then reading your own book, is it bringing back those memories, the little hints that are happening in your own life as you read through it? When you read the book the first time in your hand.
Oh, absolutely. There's a few particular parts that actually make me a little bit teary-eyed thinking about, and it's I don't even know how to explain the feeling that it gives you. Just like seeing it on paper and in a different light, it's just incredible.
Yeah, I love it. And of course, when I write, I find it's very not only calming for me, but it also releases something from me. If I have stress and I write, it kind of releases through my fingers. If I'm having an emotional moment, it can release through my fingers. Do you feel that as well, that the writing helped you move through some things in your life that, made it better for you in your life?
Absolutely. And I'm still continuing writing now. It just is the best stress relief that there is. You can get all of the thoughts out onto the paper and you can leave it on the paper. It's the best part of writing.
Yeah, I love it. And of course, when you're writing it, you're not sure who's going to read it. I mean, you have something in your
Correct.
mind about the kind of genre. When you were writing it, were you writing it for adults, for late teens, for millennials, for did you have in mind of who you were writing for? Or you just said, I'm going to write this, and whoever emotionally attaches to it, those are going to be the people that are going to be my readers.
It was whoever gets to read this is going to be my readers 100%.
I love it. I love it. How long before you thought of the idea to the time that you had that actual book in your hands?
I was just about a year, it was shy of a year. I had started
Amazing.
in March and we ended up publishing, I believe it was end of February, beginning of March of this last year. So full year.
Wonderful. And I want to talk about the process. Did you have an outline or did you just get right into it, write the title and away we go? Or did you outline it first so you know or you knew the way you wanted the characters and the storyline to progress to the end?
I had never written. That wasn't something that I've ever attempted before in my life until this moment. And so I did not have an outline. I just kind of let the words flow and hit the paper. I do love to read though, so I kind of had a general idea of what a book should look like. So that was nice. Um, I don't know. It just kind of flowed. It was hard to say like one way or the other.
Yeah, I love it. And as you're writing a book like this without having written before in a professional manner, did you find yourself writing and then having to go back and edit earlier plot lines or storylines because you didn't like where they were going, or did it just flow smoothly all the way through for you?
Well, there was a lot of editing. There was a lot of rereading, and I'm like, well, that doesn't quite make sense. That plot doesn't line up the way I want it to. So there was definitely a lot of the editing that happened later on. But it was the main point was just to write it and get it out of my mind and enjoy something that brought me joy.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's about, Sue. It's about the joy that you get from writing. We hear that from all the great best-selling authors that they write because it's joyful for them. And they think that if it's joyful for them, then hopefully some of that will sort of move across the aisle to the reader and they'll feel or have the emotion of joy as well. And I think a great author thinks about if this brings me joy, then hopefully someone will connect in a joyful manner on the other side. And that's what's starting to happen with End of It. Now, we have younger authors that are going to watch the show. They maybe have an idea. Maybe they're a little freaked out that they've never written before. Maybe in their high school or drama class, they did some writing, or in college or in elementary or middle school, but they have an idea. And then maybe they say to themselves, wow, wouldn't it be nice and fantastic and cool to write a book, but they just can't walk over to that keyboard and get the first chapter, under their wings. So, do you have any type of motivational thought that you can share with the younger author, Sue, that might be watching the show about, let's go get that first chapter done?
Absolutely. So start in the middle, start at the end, just start. That is the best advice I can give is just start because someone will read it, someone will find joy in it. Don't hold yourself back. Don't let you be the reason that you are not doing this.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Now, most authors, they get a bug and they write one and they feel that book and then they say, wow, I have so much more to uncover, so much joy to share, so much more passion. Are you looking at this, Sue, as this is the end of it, or is this the beginning of a trilogy, or do you have more things in mind for your next book already?
Well, there is already another book out. It is not a continuation of this current book, but I do hope to revisit this one at some point and continue on with some character story. So we'll see where it goes.
Wonderful. And of course, we're going to put some photos of the book End of It up during the interview, but I think you have the book right there in front of you. Maybe you could pick it up and show it to the audience. It's a beautiful cover and it definitely catches your attention. When you were producing the cover and producing the way that you wanted it to look, was that something that you collaborated with someone else, or do you have that artistic talent to do your own cover?
Oh, I am not artistic. I owe all of this to book marketeers, honestly. They were so wonderful to work with and helped get the book cover set up for me. Emma and Richard were both very great in this entire process. So if anyone is looking for someone to help them along with their book journey, that's a great place to start.
That's awesome. And often we hear our authors say that there are other people that are involved with this beautiful outflowing of ideas and putting a book on the market. It's fantastic. Now, when you wrote the book, I know we've only cut out a certain amount of time, and you're very busy, and you've got a lot of activity. You're doing more writing as well. On this book that we're talking about, the newest book, we have survival, we have hope, we have despair, we have human connection. Some of the themes of the book. When someone's reading the book, can you share with us at least what was going on in your mind as the author about what you wanted people to think about with regard to what I'm going to call human connection?
Yes. So for survival, I feel like it is critical to have human connections to anchor to your humanity. We felt the impact of that in COVID when we were forced apart, and that's also another heavy presence in my writing was that time in isolation. And we are not meant to be isolated. We are people that love to connect, and it does not do good for us when we are separated. So anchor yourself to human connection. That is the basis of most of my writing.
Yeah, I love that. When we read all the research studies that are quite prolific now, Sue, and we look at the factors that make a complete life or a long, healthy, and happy life, human connection is always one of the top two or three things that they say people have to have in order to survive and have a wonderful, beautiful life if they can. And
Yep.
I love that coming across in your book. And in an apocalyptic world, that human connection could fray a bit, could have some problems. And I would imagine in your book, that fraying is part of the message. And we also want to take that fraying and put it back together and connect it back together again. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, I love it. Well, listen, end of it is the book. Sue, you're doing an amazing job. I'm so glad to have you on the show today. You mentioned who helped you out with the book. You mentioned a little bit about your journey. You mentioned that this came from a true emotional place for you, and you were able to get this emotional situation in your life out on the paper. And when you got that paper in your hands, you read through it. And I would imagine for the authors watching the show, it's also cathartic to write. It could help you out in your own life as well. And we hear that from so many authors that as they write, it helps them in their own life to not only solidify some of their thoughts and their passions, but it also improves their spirituality, their connection, and their ability to give back to the world. So, Sue, thank you so much for coming on the Entrepreneur Spotlight Show today. This has been great.
Thank you for having me, Andy. It's been a pleasure.